Hello and welcome to the Gastric Health Show. My name is Dawn Boxall, and this week's topic is kind of exciting actually. It has been fun digging into the details of this and just kind of exploring and being curious and really truly what are some options to consider if you want to improve your appetite suppression. So this week's topic is titled Naturally Increase GLP-1 Appetite Suppression Hormone. So we're going to dig into this because I'm sure, like myself, you've watched and listened to this kind of explosion of all these new GLP-1 and GIP weight loss medications. And rightfully so, because they are really producing some impressive results. But in case you haven't and you're not really familiar, I'll kind of briefly explain what these hormones do and kind of the reason why they are being researched so heavily and evaluated as a way to help with obesity and just really metabolic diseases. So Glucagon-like peptide 1 is the GLP-1, and the Gastric Inhibitory Polypeptide, or GIP, are the two primary incretin hormones secreted by the intestines in response to eating that leads to appetite suppression. So this is something that our body naturally releases in our intestines, and each of them in different locations in our intestines. So this is something that you currently have occurring in your body. What they do find is that when the GLP-1 and the GIP are increased, we do find people's appetite to be suppressed, and therefore weight loss and blood sugar control is kind of achieved whenever those hormones are at the right levels. So really, for the sake of this conversation, I'm really only focusing on the GLP-1 hormone. That one has the most evidence behind it. It seemed when I was doing all the studies, researching all the studies. So that is where we will focus this talk. So the key with the GLP-1 hormone is to really just have enough of it released so that it provides adequate appetite suppression after eating a nourishing meal. So for some individuals, these medications really may be an amazing option. They'll finally get relief from those constant food thoughts that really in reality may never go away, regardless of how perfect you are with your diet and lifestyle. And let me explain, because this is where genetics may be at play. As I've kind of previously discussed on how certain genetic SNPs can influence your appetite and hunger, really making it more difficult to feel satisfied compared to the individuals that don't have these genetic SNPs. And the genetic SNPs that I'm referring to are the MC4R, the FTO, and the APOA2. And individuals with the MC4R gene have weaker satiety signals and increased calorie intake. Those with the, for the FTO, this was actually the first obesity gene discovered, and it causes a decreased responsiveness to satiety. And then those with the APOA2 gene have increased ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, and food intake. So you can see if someone had a combination of these or all of these, how your appetite could truly be hard to satiate. If you have all of these with the right alleles, so meaning, did this come from one parent or both parents? So, if you've received them from both parents, then the likelihood of this being a stronger drive is definitely there. So that's where I think you just have to kind of pause and really think about how you experience hunger and your appetite and cravings, and just really understand what you're experiencing so you know what you're dealing with when it comes to really controlling your appetite better, so that you know, am I maybe one of these people who have some of these genetic SNPs? Because I really can never recall feeling satisfaction after a meal, or never feel full after a meal. Because I know I have had patients say that to me many times. I've had many patients say that. I've never really been one that I, feel full after I eat. I just know that I stop eating after a period of time, but I don't really experience fullness or that satiation like people describe. So to me, this is where the genetic piece is probably a helpful tool in understanding maybe if these medications would be a good fit for you. So again, let's just kind of dig into some of this. So for some individuals, hunger may be difficult to control at the genetic level. Now, at no surprise, the GLP-1 hormone increases after bariatric surgery. So we do know that after bariatric surgery, we do see an increase in that hormone. And that is providing appetite control really at a hormone level, and really probably likely overriding those genetic SNPs. So I don't know that there has been a study showing that, but if we think very simply, that would be a likely cause, that the bariatric surgery really did kind of silence those genes or turn them off, allowing you. And was it because of the weight loss, or the remission in your diabetes, or what drove it? It's hard to say. Or just controlling all those things that drive obesity, like inflammation and unbalanced blood sugars, and just the whole gamut of what drives obesity. So here's the thing. I am for these weight loss medications because I really feel like these genetics play a huge role in why some of you would truly benefit from these medications. But let's think of this. What if your insurance company does not cover these medications? Or what if they do, but you really can't afford them? Or maybe you just really don't even qualify because you just don't have enough weight to lose. But not to mention those individuals with the family history of thyroid cancer, or pancreatic issues, or pancreatic cancer, then you are disqualified. So again, what are your options? So if the GLP-1 or GLP-1 and GIP combo weight loss medications are not even an option for you, but yet you feel your appetite is out of control or just uncontrollable, what are your options? So I guess this is what got me digging into the research. And I really did have fun exploring this and just trying to understand more deeply how all of these work, and trying to see if there really are options that can truly work and that have been kind of vetted. And there are a few things that I will share that will give you something to ponder for sure. So here's the thing. we know that your body already makes the GLP-1 hormones. And that is something that we can kind of encourage along. And that's where I want you to think about if some of these things can make sense for you. So, and I will say that I can't recall ever hearing these things in the media or, at the doctor's office, just, really focusing on naturally increasing it as an option for appetite suppression, which makes sense to me because, I guess this is my love-hate relationship with our current healthcare system because, medications, big pharma and medications really do drive a lot of it. So, doing things with your diet and making changes significantly there really don't provide any revenue. So again, do I promise that these options are going to be equally as satiating as a medication? No, but I think it's options for all kinds of people who will not, one, consider a weight loss medication like this, or would never qualify, or would never be able to have it covered or afforded. So again, these are ideas that may be a good consideration for you. Now, one thing I want to say is, although I am for these GLP-1 and GIP weight loss medications, they really can be used inappropriately, in my opinion, and I think that is occurring currently. And I will say this is where personalization is needed. And, kind of like with bariatric surgery, not every obese individual should have gastric sleeve or gastric bypass surgery, right? I think we can all agree on that. Not everyone is committed to the diet and lifestyle changes that comes with having bariatric surgery. And taking a GLP-1 medication is no different. So, for example, say you've already had bariatric surgery and you already barely consume 1,000 calories. Suppressing your appetite more is not the answer because, your body does need fuel to survive. So you can't survive on a few hundred calories without consequences. And as a matter of fact, if ignored and you suppress your appetite to where you're eating, 500 calories a day at most, maybe, you will likely be at risk for malnutrition and muscle loss. And muscle loss is our savior for really our longevity in life. So we already know that in our 50s, we begin to lose muscle mass. And this is a big deal. And this is something that, you can't stay on these very low calorie diets for long periods of time without consequences. So especially a bariatric patient who's already probably lost some muscle mass because of bariatric surgery. Adding this onto it is another just kind of tick in the longevity mark of lessening your years on this earth. So again, and also if you think about losing muscle, you are really complicating your health and weight loss goals because your muscle is your metabolic power. That is where you boost your metabolism. So the more muscle you lose, the slower your metabolism is. So it's not helpful to repeatedly do that, if that makes sense. So to sum it up, some will need surgery, medication, diet, and lifestyle. So you'll need all of those. You'll need bariatric surgery. You'll need a GLP-1 or GLP-1 and GIP medication and diet and lifestyle to manage your obesity. Others, they may only need medication with their diet and lifestyle. And then some people, they can do it with just diet and lifestyle alone. So again, even having surgery or taking a GLP-1 medication for weight loss still requires being intentional about your diet and lifestyle choices. So if you struggle with your hunger, appetite, and blood sugar control, why not optimize the release of GLP-1 from any way possible? So that's our focus. What are some real ways that you can release the GLP-1 hormone and enhance its release as often as possible when you have food? So that is where we're going to go with this conversation so that you know what your options are. But I do want you to understand that the food and food properties that are capable of increasing the GLP-1 release will likely provide less appetite suppression when compared to the medication in most cases. But again, to me, this goes back to the genetics, because we know in genetics that certain SNPs will drive the volume of food that you require to have fullness. So again, I think some people can fall in those categories where they've had bariatric surgery, but they don't require a large volume of food to feel satiated. Whereas some people with genetic SNPs require large volumes of food to maybe never really even feel satisfied. That's the difference. So again, that's where that piece where some people may need bariatric surgery and a medication and their diet and lifestyle to manage their genetics. I mean, in essence, that's really what it comes down to. You are managing your health because this is what your genetics gave you. So, and of course, there's, I'm sure, other people that agree and disagree. So I'm sure 5 years from now, I'll revise this whole thing and it'll be completely different. But right now, I think it's kind of exciting to explore this. And but I just want you to understand that some of these food options are probably not going to provide the same impact because I can tell you these foods that I'm going to cover, I've never had anybody say that they feel nauseous and are vomiting because they're having it, like I do with the GLP-1 and the GLP-1 and GIP combo medications. So again, we're talking, these are very extreme suppression that it is providing, that is shifting symptoms that you experience. So, and I do also want to clarify a little bit further is individuals with these, certain combination of genetic SNPs may find little improvement with appetite suppression when applying some of these food and food properties. To me, I personally, I would say I would enlist these options and do it as a test. Okay, I'm going to do this for a month. And I'm going to see what happens and how I respond to each of these areas. And kind of just jot some notes down on how you felt after doing each of these. And to me, it's feedback. And it's going to be feedback of maybe dialing in your genetics without having a genetic test. And if you truly feel nothing on utilizing these, then you may know at that point that you might be one of those individuals with just the right combination of genetic SNPs that appetite suppression is hard. And no matter how perfect you are with your diet and lifestyle. So, but this, again, I think is viable options that you should consider. And of course, any of those people that maybe they just have, some appetite and hunger issues occasionally. It's not like every day they're thoughts are on food, or the people who just don't qualify to utilize these medications. So what are your best options to increase the GLP-1 release naturally? The first one is yerba mate, which is a plant that is utilized in a tea, olive oil, protein, and fermentable fibers. So first, and I will say surprisingly, the yerba mate tea had literally the best and most evidence. That was surprising. I just was shocked. So yerba mate is really a plant from South America, and its stems and leaves are used to prepare a tea, especially in their culture. And yerba mate is very high in polyphenols, flavonoids, which are like quercetin and rutin, and then also in phenolic acids. So it's additionally rich in caffeine, saponins, and antioxidants. And there are multiple studies. Actually, I'm going to go through some of these and I'll tell you how many of each, but a total of 45 studies scientifically proving that yerba mate has important pharmacological properties. So they found antioxidant activity in 6 different studies, protective effects against DNA damage in 1 study, vasodilation activity in 1 study, inhibition of glycation and atherosclerosis in 4 studies, improvement in glucose tolerance in 3 studies, anti-inflammatory effects in 5 studies, chemopreventative properties in 4 studies, thermogenic effects in 2 studies, and amelioration of insulin resistance in 5 studies, and then anti-obesity effects in 13 studies. Kind of mind-blowing, actually, and actually kind of cool. It's, you know, a plant that is actually something we can ingest, and kind of exciting because I am a tea fan, and I will tell you there in one of the studies they kind of quoted that this yerba mate is just green tea on steroids when it comes to all of the benefits, and it is just exponentially better type of a tea to consume regularly. So, yerba mate has been suggested to promote satiety through various mechanisms, including induction and enhancement of intestinal GLP-1, modulation of serum leptin levels, and a possible direct central satiety stimulatory effect. Not to mention, yerba mate suppresses body weight gain and visceral fat accumulation. So visceral meaning kind of attached to your organs or close to your organs, and decreases serum levels of cholesterol, triglycerides, LDL, cholesterol, glucose, insulin, pancreatic lipase, and leptin. So all of those levels decrease with the use of yerba mate. So, as you can see, this plant offers some pretty powerful benefits to consider. And you can find yerba mate, I would use caution, read labels, read ingredients, read numbers when it comes to yerba mate. I have seen bottles of pre-prepared yerba mate tea in grocery stores, and loaded full of sugar. So not necessarily helpful when you consume hundreds of calories in a liquid form of sugar. So I wouldn't recommend that, but maybe in some loose leaf tea would be a better alternative. So look in your grocery stores and online. Now I am a fan of Mountain Rose Herbs, and they really do offer quality products, and you can order some yerba mate tea from them, just the loose leaf tea that you can put in a little strainer or a little mesh that you can brew tea with. So I would love to hear if any of you try yerba mate. When I finish these, the research on the yerba mate, I will tell you that I ordered some from my favorite herb store, Mountain Rose Herbs, and so I will be tasting it. I will probably have tasted it by the time this gets released. So I may be sharing it on social media or adding to some of the posts and stuff that we do once I get the yerba mate tea in. So, and just kind of reporting on the flavor and the taste and bitterness and stuff like that. So anyway, I thought that would be a fun fact to share, that you can kind of find these and experiment and then tell me. I'd love to know if you try this and if you recognize that it really does kind of suppress your appetite. So think of it as maybe an afternoon tea if you find that you get hungry in the afternoon between meals, when you've eaten an adequate meal, of course, and you've actually provided your body with the appropriate fuel, but yet you're getting hungry in the afternoon, with, or, maybe it's more of a head hunger type of a thing. But regardless, I'd love to know how you felt that it performed for you. So the next one is olive oil, and free fatty acids such as unsaturated fatty acids are potent stimulators of GLP-1 release. One study showed that the ingestion of a Mediterranean diet rich in olive oil for 28 days resulted in significantly higher after-meal GLP-1 blood concentrations compared to a diet high in saturated fats. Also, that would also be referring to butter. So if you compared olive oil to butter, olive oil performs way better and gives you a greater increase in the GLP-1 release. And the Mediterranean diet also improved insulin sensitivity, which is super important when it comes to obesity and weight as well. The next one is protein. So meals composed of higher amounts of protein stimulate GLP-1 secretion substantially and are associated with enhanced satiety and reduced blood sugars. And these are things like whey protein, egg, codfish, casein from dairy. All of those are the proteins that they found performed well. I would say more specifically, the whey protein was very popular in the studies. I did find several studies kind of citing the same thing, that the whey protein really was effective, which again, a lot of studies with bariatric patients, that is really what most dietitians recommend, is whey protein isolates and not whey protein concentrates. So again, that is definitely something to consider. Then additionally, I did find this interesting in a few studies. The single amino acid glutamine was the first identified amino acid demonstrating potent GLP-1 release activity. And this is just like free-form glutamine. And this technically is what our multi-support powder is glutamine. And it is a free-form powder that you can utilize. I find that some of my patients have cravings in better control when they utilize this. I also utilize this when healing your gut lining. If you have an increased intestinal permeability, I can use glutamine. Glutamine can be used in multiple different ways and super helpful for having a healthy gut, which is why I utilize it so much in my practice. So definitely something to consider, and as an option is just some glutamine to add to what you already consume with your diet. So think of it that way. The things that and if you kind of think of this, the next one is fermentable fibers. So if you think of this, we're doing a fat with olive oil, we're doing protein, and we're doing fibers, so a carbohydrate, the fermentable fibers. So specifically more the fibers, but fiber comes from carbohydrates. You can't get fiber from fat and protein. So it comes from carbohydrates. The last one is fermentable fiber, and the effects of a diet rich in fermentable fibers really do increase the GLP-1 secretion, and they have seen that in animal and human studies. And the results from one of the human studies assessed the impact of fiber on GLP-1 secretion, found that the individuals who consumed 16 grams of an oligofructose fiber daily experienced lower calorie intake, increased satiety, decreased hunger, decreased prospective food consumption. And then additionally, we understand that soluble fiber is easily fermented into short-chain fatty acids. And these are things like butyrate, acetate, propionate, all of those things which kind of heal your gut lining and strengthen that barrier for you, and many, many other things. It kind of helps with your appetite, controlling your appetite better. So all of the short-chain fatty acids are your friend. The more short-chain fatty acids your body produces from non-digestible fibers increase the release of GLP-1. And then additionally, there was another study that made this environment even more impactful is when you combined an increase in the short-chain fatty acids production from non-digestible fibers. When you combined that with probiotics, then it was even enhanced further. So that again is in deep research, trying to find maybe the right formulas there. There are a few studies showing certain strains and species of probiotics that have been effective at increasing GLP-1 and decreasing appetite. So again, I think that is down the road, and we will get to experience that sometime soon. But in the end, I think that is something to consider. Proteins, olive oil types of fat, so those really unsaturated fats are super important. And when I think of fats, olive oil is always my top pick. If you don't have a really good olive oil, you've got to get one so that you get the benefits from it. So make sure that you are including olive oil, especially on salads or over some quinoa or beans, or just adding it in a smoothie. You don't have to do anything special. Usually they say don't heat the olive oil above 350 degrees. I try to follow that parameter the majority of the time. But again, a healthy fat like olive oil, good quality proteins, and then fermentable fibers is really kind of the magic that I'm always preaching to really help with weight loss and hunger and appetite. And it truly is those things. And there is, of course, the gut bacteria benefits because of the short chain fatty acid production from those fermentable fibers. So again, it's just the combo of all of that. And then to me, the icing on the cake was the yerba mate that truly did surprise me as having so much evidence. And again, I'm just shocked and surprised that I've not really come across this before, but excited I had found it and learned about it now that I could share it with you all. So let's kind of wrap this up. So as you can see, the GLP-1 appetite suppression hormone can naturally be increased utilizing the right foods and food properties. But more specifically, your best options to really increase the GLP-1 is increasing your fermentable fibers, protein, olive oil, and yerba mate. So I really hope this has helped you guys. And again, please reach out to me. Shoot me an email, hit the contact us at gastrichealth.com, or reach out to me on social media. On Instagram, I'm the Gastric Health Show. Facebook, it's the Gastric Health Show, or we also have Gastric Health. Reach out to me, and I would love to hear what you found worked best for you, and especially if you try the yerba mate. Because that will be interesting to kind of see what everyone experiences. So you guys have a great day, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.